How corporate America blew $5.3 trillion in share buybacks. What are share buybacks, and how did corporate America blow $5.3 trillion on them?
Well, simply put, corporate share buybacks are when companies use existing cash on their balance sheet or take on additional debt to repurchase shares out of a publicly traded company. By retiring or reducing the shares outstanding, generally but not always, the share price appreciates or levitates. It's a form of financial manipulation or financial engineering. It's another way corporate insiders and institutional shareholders loot America. Much of the executive compensation is based upon stock compensation, and it's been a really huge, roughly $5.3 trillion in stock buybacks since 2009 to today.
How do share buybacks work, and how do they benefit inside executives and other shareholders?
Well, simply put, they essentially take cash from the corporate treasury, or they go out and borrow money, and they repurchase shares on the open marketplace.
What is so bad about share buybacks?
Well, share buybacks are a classic case of misallocation or malinvestment of capital. Instead of putting money into research and development or new technologies or buying a new plant or developing new products or creating organic sales growth, the money is going to corporate executives' pocketbooks or into shareholder value. Instead of increasing wages for a company's regular employees, it's going to go into executive compensation. This type of behavior is so short-term. Using up cash reserves and the financial cushions that companies have, it makes them incredibly vulnerable in difficult times, like we're in right now. Those share buybacks, we have essentially acid stripped the economy, and now the economy is very weak. Heck, we can't even manufacture masks in America anymore, and we've offshored our manufacturing and resources with this to maximize shareholder, but almost made a lot of nonsense.
The stock market has had an incredible bull run over the past 10 years. How much of the market activity directly related to share buybacks?
This is amazing, really. It's tragic no matter which way you look at it. I didn't realize it, but corporate share buybacks over the past decade, or really since 2009, have been more than 50% of the market on rising. In other words, it's corporations going out and buying their stock. It's not retail investors. And it's really kind of silly. Look, when Lehman Brothers in January 2008, before they were kind of circling the drain, if you will, they spent $100 million on buying back Lehman shares and authorized a 13% dividend to shareholders. This happened when Lehman was about to go down the drain.
Wow, all of this sounds very shady. Are these share buybacks, which are a form of market manipulation, illegal or frowned upon?
Well, believe it or not, they were treated as or considered a type of market manipulations prior to 1982. Actually, prior to then, share buybacks were considered a form of market manipulation. But during the Ronald Reagan administration, they overturned a rule called 10b-18 and created a safe harbor for companies to repurchase their own shares. Look, at the critical thing to remember at that time, a guy by the name of John Shad, who was formerly a banker with E.F. Hutton, the brokerage firm, was running the SEC. This is the first time a brokerage executive or someone from Wall Street was running the SEC since the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act in 1933. Essentially, by letting this guy run the SEC, it was like letting the chicken into the hen house. And but it was a huge run-up between 2009 and 2020 today, where we've essentially about 5.3 shares been purchased by corporations. Look, this is heralded by free market economists like Milton Friedman said the only reason for a corporation to exist is to create shareholder value. But this is it's just another way for them to loot the American economy. The bad actors, like the banks, have been doing this crap, quite frankly, and financing this crap, and it wouldn't exist today without the American taxpayer. But they've been at the heart of this problem because they make huge fees and helping purchasing shares, and then when they make additional fees to raise the debt to buy back shares.
It sounds like in corporate America there is a battle between highly compensated executives, institutional shareholders, and the employees within the company. Is this true?
No question about it. Again, instead of buying new equipment or purchasing a new plant or have the money going to wages or setting aside a money or rainy day plan or hard times, the corporation is spending all their precious cash to manipulate the share price.
This sounds pretty disgusting. Why has not anyone said anything about this?
Look, I've mentioned this in my previous videos, my 3 books, that the major shareholders oversee the corporate looting our mutual funds. Now, mutual funds do not give a hoot. They really do not. All they really want to see is the share price go up. So their portfolios can attract more money. A blatant example of this is General Electric, whose major shareholders are Vanguard, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, BlackRock, and State Street. They had all the control of the company, and they were a major voice, but they did nothing to stop it. And I guess maybe that's kind of a great example. We'll get into GE in a bit.
Why should Americans be alarmed about share buybacks in 2020? Are all of these share buybacks contributing to the financial crisis underneath the coronavirus problem? Could you give us some examples of the abuse of share buybacks?
Well, okay, let's first look at the airlines, which seem to go from one bailout to another. And then one of the biggest abuses of this. Airlines use up what's called their free cash flow, all the cash flow. American Airlines, JetBlue, Delta, United, Southwest, all spent huge money on buybacks. And now they're essentially out of cash and they need to be bailed out by the taxpayer again, which is you and me. In the past 5 years, just for the record, Delta spent $10.1 billion repurchasing shares. Southwest spent $8.6 billion. United spent $8.4 billion repurchasing shares, and American spent a whopping $13 billion over 10 years, but $11.5 billion over 5 years. Now, the thing with American Airlines, which was kind of gross, is that they actually had negative cash flow. So now they get $50 billion from the taxpayer. GE is another doozy. Two Jets, Jeffrey Immelt, formerly the CEO of GE, spent $24 billion on share repurchases in 2016 and 17, purchasing the share prices at $30 and $20 a share. GE today, I think, as this is being filmed, trades at $6.59. So that's essentially 18 to 19 billion out the window.
Are companies actually borrowing money or using debt to buy back more shares?
Yeah, this is, it always gets back to the use and misuse of debt. This is another rapacious greed problem in America. Companies are issuing debt to buy back their shares. Bank of America issued a report in 2019 saying that over the past 5 years, companies in the S&P 500 spent 2.7 trillion on share buybacks, while simultaneously increasing their debt on the balance sheet by 2.5 trillion, which, if netted out, it means that 92% of these shares were purchased mostly with additional debt.
This is somewhat disgusting. So these giant American companies are borrowing billions to repurchase their shares on the open market. This sounds like a dumb idea. And is the American taxpayer subsidizing this greedy behavior?
Well, the boys of the Treasury Department and the SEC are asleep once again. The last financial crisis was caused by opaque subprime mortgages which no one really knew anything about. And this time it's about share buybacks with trillions of debt, and no one really knows about it. I even didn't know that much about them. But banks love the financiering because they make so much money in the fees, and executives love it because they make a lot of money and they'll be out the door by the time the problem exposes itself.
What are examples of dumb shareholder buybacks by corporate America? Could you give us some examples?
Well, we already mentioned the GE dumb buyback of $24 billion, but let's look at another one. Let's say Boeing, based in Seattle, they spent a whopping $43 billion with the B over the past 10 years in share buybacks, and now they're getting 50 to 60 billion in bailouts from the taxpayer. Banks, as usual, up to old tricks. J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup spent cumulatively $274 billion in share repurchase over the past 5 years. Now they're getting bailed out once again. Apple, believe it or not, is pretty disgusting. They spent $264 billion, just one company, on share buybacks. Microsoft spent $77 billion, and Oracle spent $77 billion as well. It's all pretty disgusting.
What do you suggest people do, or for that matter, what politicians or the government could do to curb this corporate plunder?
Look, the American public is getting screwed once again in broad daylight. And my feeling is that some of these companies should just, like Boeing, they should go bankrupt. Let the debt holders take them over. Let them go. And let the debt holders take over the company and claw back these ridiculous compensation packages they're getting. But to be honest, if you look at this behavior, this is what led up to the French Revolution. And I don't like guillotines, but if you look at history, this continual looting by corporations ends up being not very nice. In the meantime, if you'd like to avoid financial ruin in your own financial life, please contact us at 603-929-7891 or contact us through www.barrymdike.com, or you can email me directly at bdike@camnh.com. Thank you for watching.